Raymond Flores, Claudia Meridian. Two names that you don't hear much about, but have been pivotal witnesses against the Trump organization. One works for an insurance company. That would be Claudia Meridian. She worked at Zurich Insurance Company. She used to be an ex-vice president and senior underwriting officer that worked with the Trump organization. The other witness, Raymond Flores, was a former Trump vice president, and both provided damaging testimony against the Trump organization, with facts and evidence and emails and messages and witness accounts and things that are admissible, not this MAGA Republican nonsense where if they don't like the judge, it's a Democratic operative. If they don't like their own people, they're rhinos. Utterly absurd. Let's focus on the facts and evidence. So let's talk about Claudia Meridian, though. Claudia Meridian, an ex-vice president, senior underwriting officer at Zurich. Her testimony basically demonstrated that Alan Weisselberg, surprise, surprise, was a complete and utter liar. Who would have thought that this convicted felon, Alan Weisselberg, who essentially signed a severance agreement with the Trump organization not to cooperate, which is paid over a period of time, but he hasn't paid. Who would have thought that Weisselberg would be lying even more? Well, here's what went down with the testimony of Claudia Meridian. Here's the question. So first she showed the testimony of Weisselberg, the former chief financial officer of the Trump organization. And this is Weisselberg's testimony. Did you at any point in 2018 inform a Zurich underwriter that the valuations contained in the statement of financial conditions were in fact performed by appraisers? Alan Weisselberg's response, I don't recall saying that. No. And then Claudia Meridian is shown that passage, and she's asked, is that consistent with what Weisselberg told you when you met? Answer, quote, it's not consistent with what Alan Weisselberg told me at the meeting. Question, was this significant into the decision by Zurich to ultimately conduct business with the Trump organization? Answer, yes. This information would have been, quote, material to my consideration. And then she said, quote, we expect our customers to be truthful with us when we are underwriting them, and we rely on them. But you don't have to take my word for it. Why don't you take the word of New York Attorney General Letitia James? And what I love that New York Attorney General Letitia James is doing in pushing back against the lies and propaganda machine, she's been dropping these 2-minute videos where she talks about the evidence and the facts and what went down in court. So here is New York Attorney General Letitia James talking about how the truth always comes out in the end. Play this clip.
We just concluded the 20th day of our trial against Donald Trump, the Trump Organization, and other defendants. This morning, we heard testimony from a witness who was an underwriter at the insurance company Zurich, North America. The Trump Organization was one of her clients. She testified that Donald Trump's statements of financial condition, which the judge ruled were fraudulent, were material to the decision to take on the Trump Organization as a client. So were misrepresentations made to her by defendant Alan Weisselberg when the Trump Organization was looking for coverage. As a result, the defendants got a better deal than they should have, meaning the Trumps got real financial benefits from providing their fraudulent statements. The truth of our case is clear, and the defendants are willfully choosing to ignore it. But as everyone knows, the truth always comes out in the end.
So earlier in the video, I talked about Raymond Flores, a former vice president at the Trump Organization. And so Raymond Flores worked in the Trump Organization. So remember when Donald Trump would go outside of the court and he shows up for like a day and a half or 2 days, violates a gag order, gets sanctioned, gets held in contempt, and then leaves because he can't control himself? Yeah. But what is one of the things that he goes? He goes, the judge made the order that Mar-a-Lago is only worth $18 million. It's worth $1.5 billion. It's worth $2 billion. The Saudis will pay me anything for it. You know how Donald Trump does that? Well, a former vice president in the Trump Organization who was responsible for helping with the statement of financial conditions testified and said, was it the Trump Organization's belief that the valuation of Mar-a-Lago was under $27 million? Yes or no? Yes. What do you base that on? Well, there was an assessment done by a property assessor in West Palm Beach that assessed the valuation of Mar-a-Lago. We had checked the box that this was a commercial property, not a residential property. We looked into perhaps recategorizing it as a residential property, in which case the valuation may be higher and significantly higher, but that would increase the property taxes on the property. And then we would have to figure out a whole new tax planning strategy. So ultimately, we decided to make sure that essentially this was categorized as a commercial property, and we at the Trump Organization agreed with the $27 million assessment. Words to that effect is what the testimony was, not from some random person, but from someone working inside the Trump Organization at the time, Raymond Flores. And here is New York Attorney General Letitia James discussing that testimony and testimony like it. Play this clip.
Today we began the 5th week of our trial against Donald Trump, the Trump Organization, and other defendants. We heard testimony from 3 witnesses, including a former Trump Organization executive. That executive was involved in fraudulently inflating the value of Donald Trump's assets to increase his net worth. On Christmas Eve in 2020, he received a voicemail from defendant and former Trump Organization controller Jeffrey McConney. Mr. McConney asked him to come up with reasons to justify a higher value for their Nike Town property because their accountant at Mazars needed more information. Just 3 days later, documents show that the witness did as he was told and changed the value of Nike Town based on a cash flow analysis he created. This former executive was also involved in conversations about the value of Mar-a-Lago. Since 1995, Mar-a-Lago was legally registered as a social club rather than a private residence for tax and ownership purposes. This executive testified that he knew that it was a club and that Trump paid lower taxes on it as a club rather than as a private residence. He also testified that he knew the property was worth much less than it would have been if it were Donald Trump's private home. However, when it came time to prepare the statements of financial condition, the Trumps continued to value Mar-a-Lago as a private residence. In 2021, Mar-a-Lago was assessed at approximately $28 million. They claimed it was worth $612 million. Again and again, Donald Trump tried to double dip. But here's the thing with the law. You can't have it both ways.
So now compare that to, let's say, Eric Trump's deposition. Eric's going to be testifying this week. I'll just show you. I'll spare you the longer video here. You'll get the hang of it. Here, Eric Trump's like, Cushman Wakefield? Who are they? Cushman, the lawyer? I don't really do appraisals. What? Play this clip.
And do you recognize the name David McCardle?
I recognize the name very vaguely, and Yeah, I recognize the name very, very vaguely. Cushman, Wakefield. Yes, I recognize the name.
And does this refresh your recollection that in mid-2014, Cushman and Wakefield had been retained to provide consulting services related to an analysis of the estimated value of a potential conservation easement on all or part of the Seven Springs estate?
Truthfully, Andy, it really doesn't. This isn't to me. I didn't sign this. This looked like it was something between Sherry Dillon and Cushman and Wakefield. It's extremely consistent with what she would have done. It's extremely inconsistent with what my role is at the company. I just don't. I think I was very kind of clear that, to the best of my knowledge, I really haven't been involved. In appraisal work on this property.
Well, are you saying that this engagement could have happened without your knowledge and approval?
I'm just saying I don't remember this. I'm not on here. I never signed this document. I just don't seem to recall anything about this. I pour concrete. I operate properties. I don't focus on appraisals between a law firm and Cushman. This is just not. It's not what I do in my day-to-day responsibilities. And I hardly recognize the name.
And that's the thing, folks. Ultimately, I just want to get at the evidence. And when you see the depositions, when you see what's going down in court, compare that to what these Trump kids and Donald Trump, what they're saying outside of court, they are not congruent. They are incongruous. And the reason is because they are lying. They are lying. They are liars in everything that they do. So whether you talk about it in real estate, whether you talk about it relating to the January 6th insurrection, so all of the people who worked at the Trump organization, they're part of the conspiracy. Bill Barr and Mark Meadows and all of these other Trump insiders, they're rhinos, they're cowards, they're weaklings, they're also part of the deep state. The only people who seem to know anything right now, who have all the secret answers, but it's super secret, it's Donald Trump, Alina Habba, Rudy Giuliani, Steve Bannon. I mean, people who have lied their entire life. They're the ones who say, trust us, trust us. Don't look at the facts. Don't look at the evidence. Just trust us. And that's why here at the MeidasTouch Network, let's go to the source. Go to the testimony. Go to the depositions. Go to the court filings. There's Eric. It's what he's saying. It is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. You see it there. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. We are on our way to 2 million subscribers thanks to your awesome support. Go check us out as well as patreon.com/MeidasTouch and have a good day.
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.